Before we get into the webinar, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge and respect the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we are meeting upon here today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationships of Aboriginal peoples to country. We also pay respects to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia present here. Okay, so I'm not sure how people are in terms of teams. So I normally just show this slide just in case there's some newbies on the call. I know with the last few years we've had, it would be hard not to have had some kind of exposure to Teams. But just in case you're not aware, up the top you'll find all those nice reaction and chat buttons. So I have enabled reactions. So if you can find the reaction button up the top, if you can just click and give me a thumbs up, that would be great. Thanks, Hayley. Excellent. And then you'll see in this bottom picture here, there's like a breakout room sign. So if you're running the team, you'll see that icon, but if you're a participant, you won't. One more handy tip before we get started is if you are unfortunate enough to be trying to follow this with one screen, when we do get into the practical side of things of having a go, if you want to keep me in half your screen and then use the other half, if you press the Windows key and then the right or the left arrow, that will split your screen. So when we get to that bit, I'll remind you, but that's a handy thing to know about in case you're struggling with one screen. Okay, and then I think we get started. So before we do though, I'll just start with a quick poll. So the first one is just to gauge how energized you might be for today. So if you were back at school, if you're already exhausted, or if you haven't been back yet, if you can just click one of those responses and click submit. That's good. There's some people that are re-energized, so that's good. Okay, excellent. So the majority of people are re-energized. That's excellent to hear. And then just one more question, just to give me a bit of an idea of where you're coming from. So if you could just indicate what year levels you might teach, or if you're in corporate or in an admin role. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a mix between primary and admin and leadership. Excellent, thanks for that. Okay, so the first bit of the webinar, I'm going to show you some of the apps that are included in Microsoft 365. It's going to be quite a whirlwind kind of tour because I just want to show you what's available and some ways that schools are using these apps. I don't expect you to be following along as I go through these. The second half, however, is hopefully all hands-on. We're going to be going through Teams and some tips and tricks to do with Teams. And in that part of the webinar, you'll hopefully be interacting. But the first bit is a little bit of a show and tell. So I'm going to stop the PowerPoint presentation. And instead, I'm going to share my screen. hopefully I've got the right one. And as I said, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But because I'm working across a couple of screens, if I don't see your question straight away, please unmute and pipe up. Okay, so we're going to be starting off on a browser, so either Edge or Chrome, and where you can access all your Microsoft 365 apps is from www.office.com. So you may have heard that Microsoft is changing their Office suite or renaming it Microsoft 365, but at the moment that web link is still office.com. And when you open this up, you'll find some of the things that you recently edited. They might not be documents that you own, they might be something that you share. And then along the side here are the things or the links to your apps. So if I click on apps, I get some of the popular apps I might use. And then if I click on all apps, I can see all the apps that are available to me. So something like Bookings is an app that allows you to share bookings with the outside world. So you might find that you want to set up parent interviews with something called like Bookings. Class Notebook, if you have used OneNote, is the class version of OneNote. Excel, you might be familiar with the web. There's a web version and a desktop version. Forms, we will have a look at in a moment, and I'll go in a bit of a deeper dive along with these ones here, but I will just mention as well Planner. So Planner isn't in the overview that I've sent you, but this is a bit like a tracking board, so you can set up task cards. You can do this for yourself or for your team. So that one's one that you might want to investigate. Power Automate, you actually need to purchase a license for, but that allows you to automate processes. So if you're in leadership, that might be something that you explore. And I think the other ones we have a look at now. So if I go into OneDrive first, can you give me a thumbs up if you're already using OneDrive? Just with your actions. A couple of people. Okay, so OneDrive is your personal storage in the cloud. You can have or store up to 1 terabyte of things, data in this space, and this is what we call our me space. So in here are files that I'm working on and I don't need to share with the rest of my team. So these are my personal files. You can store whatever you like on here, but just be aware that the service desk can go in and have a look if they need to. So please don't store anything like pirated copies of movies, for example. You will lose access to this when you cease employment with the department. So just be wary if you are a contract teacher and don't have that TRT backup, that before your contract ends or within 2 weeks that you'll need to transfer those files across. As I said, the files are private unless you share them. You can share files in here. So if I go into this folder here, you can see that the ones with a little person on them are folders that I've shared something with another person in. But you can stop sharing, and unlike Teams, for example, you can request permission to share your OneDrive folders or files with people outside of the department. you need to put in a ticket and have a business case for this, but it is possible. Okay. The next app we have a quick look at is Notebook. Can you give me a thumbs up if you use Notebook? Or OneNote, sorry. Okay. A couple of people again. So OneNote is available on the web or as a desktop app. I just go into my desktop app. So you can see this one here I use for my personal tracking, but you can also have team OneNotes. So this one here, for example, is one that is shared in my team. So we track our training up the top there. You can also have notebooks that are with your class. So this one actually, go back into one that is an actual class notebook. So this one here, I've got my different sections up the top, and I've got my work for my students down the bottom. Now at the moment there's two versions of OneNote. So there's this one here, but there's also a different version that looks quite different. And this is the other version. And if I go into that same notebook, you can see it looks quite different. However, Microsoft are doing an update so that you can have the same look and feel for all of them. Now, why might I use something like OneNote? It's really good for tracking things. So if I go back into my personal one again, you can see I've got a whole lot of sections down here where I'm able to organize all the things that I'm working on. And then when in each section, I can have a whole lot of pages and I can add artifacts like photos and links and videos and whatnot. So it's really easy to organize all your things in the one place. And then of course you can do a search and find things. Okay, so that's OneNote. I do have a couple of examples to show you, which I didn't show you there. Oh, let me just sign in. And these are linked in the training summary that I sent out. So this is an example of how you might use a OneNote for staff meetings. So instead of having a separate document for each agenda and each minutes of a staff meeting, you might have them as a page in OneNote. So if I go into my term one, I've got all my agendas there and I can quickly go from one week to the other without having to open up a new document. And the same with my minutes. So I can quickly go in and see what happened in this week and what happened in that week without having to open up a document. And again, I can search. The other example we have that's linked in the training summary is one that isn't a teaching notebook, but explains how a teaching notebook might work. So that's worth having a look at if you want to delve deeper into OneNote. Okay. The next tool or app I'm going to talk about is called Sway, and this one is only available online. This is a presentation tool. I'll just open it up. And you can see here I've got lots of sways on the go, but I'll show you some examples of how they're being used in schools. So the most prominent example we find is for newsletters. So this is Banksy High's newsletter. You can see it all looks very nice and it's quite interactive. They've got a whole bunch of photos, and instead of them all being printed, you can just click through them. The other thing that's really nice about Sway is if I bring it down and make it the size of a mobile phone screen, for example, You can see that it's changed its layout to make it readable on a small device. So if you're wanting to share things like newsletters with parents, Sway is a great tool because most people these days have a smartphone, and that's where they read things like newsletters. A nice thing about Sway is that you can share it with people outside of the department. So you can share those newsletters with the parent community. This is another example of how you might use a Sway. So this is in a high school setting. I know none of you are in a high school setting, but you could do something similar with a year 7 student, not year 7, a year 6 student, if they're wanting to take something with them to high school. So this is an example that I borrowed from a high school, where the student has to prove things like organisation and goal setting. And then because this can be shared outside of the department, they can share that with employers or their family. Again, an example of how Sway has been used in the department. So this is a presentation from one of the units inside corporate who put together a Sway. And again, you can see it looks very polished and professional, and it's really easy to do. This is the back end of a Sway. So it's really easy to make them. You can see I've just got all these cards. And then when I play it, this is, and see the presentation. So this is just another example of the Sway with embedded graphics and videos. Just on the back end of Sway, another really nice thing about Sway is that you can get some analytics. So if you are sending out a newsletter to parents, for example, you can have a look and see how many people viewed it and how long they spent. So for this one, for example, I can see that it's had 1,219 views. Most people spent 2 minutes and they read just under 40% of it. So this is how many people glanced, read it quickly and read in depth. So you can't tell who's looked at it, but you can tell how many people have looked at it and how long they spent, which is quite useful. It's something you can't get if you send out a PDF, for example. So the next one I'm going to go and delve into a little bit deeper. So I'll just go back to my apps and then all apps is forms. So if you've used Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, Microsoft Forms is quite similar. Again, if you create a form, you can share this outside of the department. So if you're wanting to, for example, share a form to get grandparents or parents to register for an event, you can definitely share that link outside with other community members. If you're in upper primary and you're wanting students to create a quiz or form for data collection in maths, for example, they can do this and then share the link with people outside of the department, not just other students as well. So it's really quite nice looking, and again, very easy to create the different questions. So this example is one that you might share outside the department. This is an example. Forms has just put in the capability to add pictures to responses, which is really exciting. So this one's an example if you're having student representative voting, for example, you could put photos of the kids so that when the person votes for it, they know that they're voting for the right person. This one is a branching example. So I've voted for my class representative, and then I can choose which house I'm in and vote for my house captains, for example. If I'm not in that Kingston Kookaburras I get a different set of choices that I can submit. And I can press submit. This is another example of a form. This might be used as a summative assessment. And again, this one's using branching, but this time, if the student responds and gets the wrong answer, you can see the teacher has added some graphics to help the student try again. So they've talked about the different hands. They can press try again and then try and answer that question again, and this time go to another question. A nice thing about forms, again, is that when lots of people or people have responded, and I'll just go into this one, for example, in the back end, you get some really nice visuals for your data. So if it's a written cloud, you get lots of a word cloud. Depending on the type of question you ask, you might get a graph as well. And all this is live. So if someone wants to answer or fill in this form right now, we'd see that data change. The other thing with forms is you can download it as an Excel file so that you can do more things with that data. And the same with this one. This one is a quiz rather than a form. So as a teacher, I could get that data and use that as an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, and forms, as I said, can be shared outside the department. And let's go to all apps again. Oops, try again. Right, now there's another couple that I'll briefly mention. So Whiteboard, again, this one is online, but you can get this as a desktop app. This is basically a big whiteboard. So you could preset something up with your students' names, for example, and then share this either by having it in a class team, or you can go up and share it with your students as well, and then students could add on there and all collaborate. So that's one way you can use it, or you could start from scratch. And there's a whole lot of inbuilt templates in here and different things that you could use. So in the template section, Microsoft has done quite a bit of work since when Whiteboard first came out, building some templates that are appropriate for schools, such as put this one in. So again, this is one that's already built. You don't have to do anything other than put it in there and then share it with your students, and then they can type away and add the things that they need to add. So that one's well worth exploring. If you're having to do meetings on Teams, you can add whiteboards directly into the meeting so that everyone in the meeting can write on the whiteboard. So that's quite a nice app. It was a bit clunky when it first came out, but they've done lots of improvements. And the other one is Stream. Now, Stream's recently gone through a bit of an update. It used to look like this. So you may have seen it when it loads, looking like this. And it used to be that you could see different videos from all over the department. Microsoft is discontinuing this form of Stream. So if you have used Stream like this before and do have content on there, you need to think about moving the videos across, because it will cease to exist at the end of this year. but this is Stream at the moment. So basically, it's a video viewer that's in the cloud. And any videos that you have accessed and that are saved either in your OneDrive or in a team that you have access to can be found here. So for example, this one here is stored in this team here that I belong to. And if I go in, I can see that I've put chapters in, so I can go to particular spots in the video. I can add in here a blurb of things, and I can also add links. But if I want teachers to comment or students to comment on that video as well, I can add comments in here. And there's also a transcript. Now, if it does it and it's not quite right, it's not, and if I hover ivory, you can go in and edit that so that it makes sense as well. So that's Stream, and as I said, it looks a little bit different to the Stream that you might have seen in past years. Okay, I think I've got to the end of my talking, so hopefully I haven't moved too fast, and hopefully you can all wake up now, because we're going to get into our teams and hopefully get a bit of participation going as well. So let me just move my Teams window across if I can. It's not going to like it. I'll put you next to me up here instead. So what I'd love you to do now, if you can, is open up Teams so that you've got Teams as an app open as well as your Teams as a window. And once you've got your Teams open, if you can just give me a bit of a thumbs up. Now, if you are struggling with one screen, at this point, you might want to split your screen in two. So if you press the Windows key and either the right or left arrow, that will split your screen up. So that might be handy if you want Teams there and your Teams meeting on the other side. Okay, hopefully everyone has got Teams open now. And if you haven't, maybe you can follow along after. So Microsoft Teams is a closed environment. So that means that only people with an @schools email address can be added to a team and can access a team. Down the side here, we've got some different functions. So activity tells me things that have just happened, and oh dear, Kate's asked to join this meeting and I didn't see it, so she might have to watch the recording after. Chat, in the chat, you can only chat with adults, so you can't chat with students. The Teams button shows you all the teams you belong to. So I belong to quite a few. Lots of them are test teams, but some of them are collaboration as well. And assignments. So if you've set up any class teams to work with students, you'll find assignments that you've assigned to different teams in here. And then your calendar should link with your @schools email address. Now, if you're in the corporate world like I am, you'll have your SA.gov account and your @schools account. Just be wary that your @gov account won't populate your @schools calendar. Okay, but we're going to have a look in that team space, and what we're going to do is I'm going to create a team, and then I'm going to give you the joining code, and hopefully we can have you join the team so that we can have a bit of collaboration within the team. So I'm going to click up here on join or create team and create team. And then I've got 4 options. So if I'm using the team as a teacher with students, I click on class. But for all other instances of a team, I would choose other. Now it's tempting to choose staff or PLC. However, if you choose these 2 options, you're quite limited in the way you can structure your team. So we suggest class for working with students and other for any other team. So I'm going to click on other, give it a name. Oh, it's not Feb yet, it's Jan. I'm wishing the year away. Now, if you are creating a team in a school, especially if you're using it with your students, it's really important that you put a name there that's quite meaningful. We do suggest that you use your school code somewhere in the team, so that 4-digit number that's your site code. Just because if you do accidentally delete your team, it's very hard for the service desk to retrieve and recover your team if it's named Year 4-5 class, because there's lots of Year 4-5 classes. But if you name it with your site code, so 1000 and then Year 4-5 class, that's much easier to recover if you need to. There's an option here for private or public. Now again, we suggest you make your teams private. The reason is that if you select public, anybody with an @school's email address can find that team. So that can be students and staff. And we have had some incidents in the past where students have gone into a team, they don't need to ask permission to join because it's public, and then they've posted some inappropriate things in that team. Now, we can't tell who's posted the things, so it's not that smart, but it's a bit messy to clean up as well. Okay, so I've just created the team. And I'm going to skip typing in the numbers now, the email addresses. Now, if I know the email addresses of the people in my team, I can do that here. However, another way to add people, which is what I'm going to ask you to do now, is to get a team code. So I'm just going to go to those 3 dots and go to Manage Team and go to Settings and then go to Team Code and Generate. Now I'm just going to copy that into the chat. And I will put it at full screen in a moment, but what you need to do with this code is back on that All Teams page, when you click on Join or Create Team, you need to put that code in there. So either copy and paste the code in or type it in. So I just go back and into that brand new team I created and into Settings. And I'll make that full screen for people. So hopefully you can type that code in there and join this team that I've just created. And then if you just give me a thumbs up in the chat team when you've been able to do that, or come off mute if you've got a problem. Thanks, Judy. It is in the chat, so you can copy and paste it from the chat of the meeting as well. I'll just minimize that and see if we've got some members in there. We've got 4 people in here, so 4 of you have managed to get in. So I'll just go and show that code again. I'll show you where to go to put in the code one more time, and then I'll show that code again. hoping that we can get the rest in. So in Teams, it's join or create team, and then enter code in there. So let's go back. Let's go back into that team I've created. And I'm going to the 3 dots, manage team. I've got a few more in here now. Excellent. One more thing you can do if you can't get people to join that way, or if you don't want to type in people's names, is you can also get a link for the team. So I might just go out, get that link and pop that in the chat for those people that haven't managed to join us. So it's the 3 dots, get link to team, copy. Now this, when people click on it, it will mean that you have to request for them to come in. So, but it is another way for people to join the team. So if you haven't managed to put in that code, if you click on that link in the chat, hopefully you can join us. Okay, so now we've got people in our team. I'm just going to go in and have a look at our settings. One thing to note about teams is it's always good if we have at least 2 owners. Now, the reason behind this is that if I was to leave the department, this team, if I'm the only owner, it's very hard for someone else to come in and then do changes to the settings, for example, add new people. So we always suggest that you have at least 2 owners. So Shuri, I'm going to change you to an owner. We will delete this team after this training, but I'm just going to go in, and Shuri's a member at the moment, so I'm just going to change you to an owner. And now we've got 2 owners. Now, note that for members, I can get rid of people straight away. But owners, if I want to delete that person from the team, they've moved to a different school, for example, I'd have to go in, change them to a member first. I'm just going to go and have a look at the settings though. So in member permissions, there's a few things in here. With student teams, so class teams, I suggest that you turn off the edit and delete message option, because we all know what students can be like. If they post a message that's not very nice, someone sees it, gets upset, and then the person deletes it. It's very hard to track. So with students, I suggest you turn off those settings. But the one I suggest we turn off in a staff team is the private channels one, and the delete and restore channels. Now, the reason why those 2 settings it's a good idea to turn them off is that if you've got a team with quite a few channels and someone thinks, oh, that channel's not relevant to me, they might accidentally delete it instead of hiding it. Okay, so let's go in our general. And in here, we're going to start off, first of all, we're going to start off by making some channels. So I've given permission to all of you to be able to make channels. So what we want to do is go up to those 3 dots and go to add channel. And hopefully you can type in your name as the channel name. And then we want to keep it as standard and then press add. So I'll just repeat that. Oh, excellent, we've got some already. But it's the 3 dots, add channel, type in your name. Now it won't let me have 2 of the same name. So if someone's got an in before you, you might have to add your initial. Click on add, and they come up. Now, if you've got hidden channels, you can just click on the arrow and do show to see them all. Okay, so now I'm hoping you can do this next bit in your channel. Now, if you haven't been able to create a channel, you could do this next bit in my name, so either of those two channels or the general channel at the top. And I'm just going to show you a couple of tricks with creating announcements. And these work in the chat as well. So if I click down here on new conversation, first of all, if I'm just writing one sentence, it's really easy to just type one sentence. And then if I press enter, it goes and it's posted. However, if I want to have some more formatting or more than one line, one tip is I start writing this, and if I hold down Shift Enter, that gets me a new line. Is a Shift Enter gets me a new line, longer, Shift Enter, message. So now I've been able to put in multiple lines without pressing enter and sending my message. And now when I press enter, I've got that there. So hopefully Annette's gonna post. No? Anyone doing posts? If you can try and do a post in your channel, you can just see whether you've got that, the hang of those. Okay. If you want to do a little bit more than just one line or multiple lines, if you click on the A with the pencil there, I can see Katie's done something excellent. This gives you more formatting. So now I can add a subtitle. If I wanted to, I could post this in multiple channels. So I might want to make sure, and I'll just find this team that I set up. Where are you? There we are. So I might want to make sure that it pops up in Hayley's channel as well. So I can have multiple channels, but as you saw, when I clicked on select channel, all the teams I'm a member of show up. So if I've got 2 year 5 teams, for example, I might be a specialist teacher and I'm working across multiple class teams, I can post, or I can type one message and post to multiple teams. If I'm in a school leadership team, for example, and I've also got a staff team, I can post to both teams at the same time. So I've done that. If you want this to be something that people can't reply to, you can select that one as well. And then I've got all these formatting options as well, so I can make it bold. I can change the color. I can make it a heading, etc. I can add links and tables. Okay, so let's just see what okay, and it's done a normal post with several lines. Excellent, excellent. Okay, the last one we can do, and this is an announcement. It's called an announcement. So this should be used if you want to get people's attention, something really important, or if you were using Teams as a class, you might, or a school, you might have an announcement at the beginning of each day for your day book or what's going on with your class. So again, new conversation, the A with the pencil. And then instead of leaving it like this, I click on that arrow next to new conversation and I can select announcement. Now I've got a big coloured space. I can type in my heading. I need to type in a subheading. and then a bit of an announcement. Now, I've got some options here as well. So if I wanted to, say, color code a certain type of announcement, say I put an announcement out for my spelling list, for example, or I put an announcement out when staff need to empty the fridge, I might have all the staff emptying the fridge as yellow, for example, or all my emergency drill notices in red, for example. The other thing though that's quite cool is that I can choose an illustration. So there's a whole lot of funky illustrations that Microsoft has put together. So if I'm the arts teacher and I need to tell people that arts has to be in the classroom today, for example, I might choose that one. And you can also upload an image. So if you've got a school banner, for example, you could have official announcements with your school banner. And then when I can also post in multiple channels for that as well. And then if I press send, you can see that this really stands out. So hopefully I've got some people. Hayley, have you managed? You put a praise in, but we haven't got an announcement. Has anybody managed to do an announcement? Sorry, how to create a channel. Yes, so I'm just reading the chat. So there's a couple of people that I went too fast for. So again, you're in the team, hopefully, and near the team name, there's the 3 dots here. And if I click on that, then I've got the options here. And the second option here is add channel. And then hopefully I can give it a name. And as I said, it needs to be a different name to another name in the channel. Sorry, Cherie and Jackie, does that work for you now? Hopefully, maybe. Okay, and I'm not seeing many announcements. Jackie, excellent. Yes. So Tanya, yes, it will be it's being recorded, and I'll send you a link once I do all the blurring of everyone's names. Okay. I might just show you that announcement one more time. Sent free to be accepted. Sorry if you tried to join and it wouldn't let you. I didn't see you, but you will be able to catch up on the recording. Okay, sorry, you meant you've come through there. Let's go and see whether you come through in the manage team for new request. Yes, sorry, Sue, there you are. Sorry. Normally you get a bit of an alert, but because I'm on Do Not Disturb, it hasn't come up with an alert. So if it's like, Sue, you've clicked on the link and you have to accept them, again, it's those magic 3 dots. This time, manage team. The members is the first, and if you've got anyone that's requested, they'll show up in this section here. So now when I go to members, we should see Sue in there. Okay, sorry about that, Sue. Okay, excellent. It looks like just about everyone's got a channel now. And no, we don't have announcements. So I'm going to show you one more time this announcement thing. because I think it is a bit of a game changer, especially if you've got a team with lots of chats. Making an announcement can bring out the information that matters. So, new conversation, that pencil tool down the bottom. And then there's this first option here which says new conversation. And we click on that arrow down to go and choose an announcement. Then I can type in my heading. I need to put in a subheading. And I need to put something in the body of the text. And then I can leave it at that, or I can use those two options to make it stand out more, and then press send. So I'm hoping now maybe somebody, excellent. Annette's got one, Katie's got one, excellent. Tanya, you've got the several lines, excellent. Okay. Right, so we've managed to do activity 1. Sorry, we're moving a bit slower than I had anticipated, so apologies for this, but hopefully you're getting a little bit out of it. Another really good thing to know about in Teams is that you've got the ability to tag people. So if I'm in this general channel, for example, if I press this and I want to send an alert out to everybody in this team, if I type the @ symbol and then if I start typing team, it gives me this option here. And then when I type this, for example, and press send, everybody who's a member of this team now should have an activity alert pop up here. If I just want to send a message or make sure someone, not send a message, but make sure someone in particular in the team sees this post, if I start typing @ and then if I start typing Annette, because she's in that team, she'll pop up in the suggestions. And now when I type this, and if I get the spelling right, and press send, just Annette will get that activity alert up here. Now it's important to note that everyone still sees the message, so everyone, not just Annette, sees that message, but Annette will be the only one that gets that alert there. So please don't think this is a private conversation between yourself and the person you've tagged. Everyone in the team can still see the conversation, but they won't get an alert. You can also just tag a channel. So if you've got members in a certain channel, you can tag that channel as well. Okay, so if you want to practice doing that tagging, you're welcome to. But we might move on, seeing as we've only got 4 minutes left, to the sharing bit. So I spoke briefly at the beginning about OneDrive being the space for the me files. So my personal files that I'm working on, they're still department files. It's still my work, but I don't need to collaborate with many other people, maybe 1 or 2, but not a team of people that I regularly work with. However, if I've got files like my program that I'm working with other people in the PLC, for example, instead of having those files live in my OneDrive, it's a good idea to have them live in that team space. Again, just like when I mentioned about owners, if you own the file in your OneDrive and you leave the department, even if you shared it with your colleague, they lose access to that file after you leave the department. However, if the document lives in the team, as long as they're still a member of the team, they can access that file again. So Teams is a really good space for a me space. So you can even create a team that is just for you and the other upper primary teachers that you work with, for example. It doesn't have to, and it's just this file storage space. So in here, each channel has a file space. So if I click on files here, and if I upload a file, so let's just do a new one. So I've just opened this or created this file. And because I created it in Teams or it's saved in Teams, each of you, if you go into that general channel and into the files up the top, if you click on that link to that file, each of you will be able to go in here. So please type in your name. So if I insert a table, for example, I could have each of you put in your name. And you can see up here, I've got 4 people in here at the moment. Teams does open up in Word Online, so you don't have as much editing capacity as you do with the desktop version, but you can always go to this little editing button and go open in desktop app. And then once it opens, you'll see that it's still saving. It's still in that same spot in the desktop, in the team. And as people type in here, that will still come up and I can still see who's in the document. So even though I've now opened this up in my Word on the desktop, I can still, it's still living in that team. So that's a good way if you're working on school reports, for example, if you have all the documents live in a team, you can have the different teachers go in and edit it without having issues with having to save the file multiple times. Okay, now I have realised that I've run out of time. I know we haven't covered everything that was in the training summary, so I hope that you got something out of this session. Before I go, I do want to point you in the direction of a few resources that you might want to have a look at to help you further with your learning journey towards using Microsoft 365. And also I do have some more webinars on the different apps this week and next week. So the first one here is our team's YouTube channel. So in here we have a whole bunch of really short video clips that my team has recorded to help you do things in Microsoft 365. So if I go into Teams, for example, if it will let me, you can see here there's a whole bunch of videos and most of them are quite short, showing you how to do something specifically. So have a look there. The link to that channel I will pop into the chat. And it is in the training summary as well. The other place that is really great for self-learning is the Microsoft Learn Educator Centre. And here you can create a profile. We do suggest you use your @school's email address, And then in the Educator Centre, there's all sorts of different pathways you can do to learn more about how you can use Microsoft 365 with your students and in a school setting. And then the last one, and the link is in that handout as well, is we have a team called the M365 Apps Support and Collaboration Team. And in there, we've got lots and lots of teachers and SSOs and corporate and all sorts of people that have joined. So if you've got questions about something to do with anything Microsoft, you can join that team. And then if you put in a question, someone, whether it's someone from my team or if it's another teacher at another school, will answer your questions. So thanks for joining us, especially in week 0. I know it's really busy. As I said, I hope you got something out of it. I'm happy to stay on for any questions or queries if you have some. Otherwise, thanks very much for joining. Microsoft Learning, yes, I can post that link. Thank you for joining and good luck with the new year.